Hello, here, Mike again, and welcome again to this episode of Common Sense View. Finally, a result is already dropping from Middle East about what has been going on, or the so-called 12 days war. That means finally Israel and Iran have agreed to come to a ceasefire with conditions, of course, which have already been met. That means 6 hours was the condition, so that every one of them will allow their last blow to reach the other person, and then after that, everyone will drop the weapon and listen to the word. So I don't know how he did it, but whatever it is that Trump did to get this to happen was effective. And you can understand within these 12 days, a lot has happened in Israel, though we didn't see most of them on the screen of the TVs. A lot of bombardment of civilians and whatever is, for me, it's a collateral damage of war. And on the side of Iran, practical almost all their air defense system have been knocked out. That a country, US, could fly almost 38 hours undetected and carry out that Operation Midnight Hammer without any shot from Iran. You know that something is wrong. If you do not know how strong you are, somebody invaded your house, left unnoticed, I think you should re-examine, and that is what they have come to. Of course, they released the shot 6 missiles to a US base in Qatar. And that was before informing them that we are going to bomb you, so be prepared. Make sure that you shoot it down. They have to make faith, they have to save face, of course. They are a country, after all, they are proud people. And not retaliating after that shot was so significant, not by Qatar and not by US. Just allow them to make faith. They have to put up a show. They have to show the people at home that we made some noise. But all of those things are irrelevant. The war shouldn't have started in the first place. Israel started it, yes. But there is a very strong antecedent to that consequence. But that being said, finally, Trump is right again. All the barrage of attack he got from home for doing that doesn't mean I support it. And the reason I don't support it is not because Iran should have a nuclear weapon. No. The reason I don't support it is that nobody has the right to tell the other person you should get this for your country or not. But for the fact that the intention is clear, how is it clear? So Iran have been saying dead to America, dead to US. If somebody publicly saying that he will kill you, and then he's trying to get enough material to be able to do that, nobody can say you have a special way to react to it or not. So for me, it is partly justified and partly unjustified. Partly justified because you have the right to remove any threat to you. Unjustified because there's no one that has the right to tell any country how to live their own life. So that being said, it's good for the world that Iran nuclear installation is decimated or obliterated, as they have been always used. So let's see. I want us to go into this interview of Brett Baer to J.D. Vance, Vice President of the U.S., on what transpired and how we got here. So one after the other, I have few information. A lot of Democrats were criticizing Trump that he broke the law. I have checked that aspect of the law. He said that the president has 90 days free reign to conduct any immediate strike or any immediate action that threatens the homeland. But to go beyond that 9 days, he must get express permission from the Congress, and I don't think has already broken. So the people who are saying it are either intentionally ignorant or willfully malicious. That's my own point on that. So, and the second note is that not a lot of people supported him taking the action because of what could be the counter action to it. But as it is now, he's right. His action to do what he did, at least so far, has proven to be right. Because Iran has been forced to the table. Everyone knows that Iran wouldn't have considered ceasefire if not that they have been dead this level of harm, damage. And finally, the people from the Democrat side who have been talking a lot, making a lot of noise, Crochet to Ocasio-Cortez and the others who are calling for impeachment. I will show you at the end of this, before the end of this show how Obama prepared almost the same condition, and for no just reason, when he was bombing Libya. It's not even on the same part, because the intention that time was clear. They were going after Gaddafi. But this time around, they were only going after what they consider to be military installation, nuclear installation. Nothing human, and there has not been any report that any individual was killed. Not from Iran, not from US, not from Israel, and not from anybody. But that of Obama was targeted. They targeted Gaddafi, and they took him out. And the Democrats who are shouting heaven and hell now, none of them said a thing. So I don't know what it's called. Either it is hypocrisy or double standard. It doesn't matter to me. What matters is that at the end, Trump took the right action, as justified by coming to the table to minimize waste, human life, and the loss of treasures. So let us see. Let us listen to that interview of J.D. Vance by Brett Baer.
Agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire. Complete and total ceasefire is what he typed.
Yep.
What does that mean? How did it come about? What's the development here?
Well, we were actually working on that just as I left the White House to come over here. So that's good news that the president was able to get that across the finish line. I think what it means, Brett, is quite simple. First of all, the president, without, knock on wood, having a single American casualty, obliterated the Iranian nuclear program. We are now in a place where we weren't a week ago. A week ago, Iran was very close to having a nuclear weapon. Now, Iran is incapable of building a nuclear weapon with the equipment they have because we destroyed it. So that's a very, very big thing. Now, what that means, I think, is we have to talk to Iran and, of course, to Israel about what the future holds. Because while we have obliterated the Iranian nuclear program, our hope and our expectation is that they're not going to try to rebuild that program. And I think that's what the president is really trying to figure out here, is to build a long-term settlement here to where we can have peace in the region, where our regional allies and, of course, the American people, most importantly, can be secured, but where we can ensure that the destruction of the Iranian nuclear program that has already happened is not something they try to rebuild.
I want to get to the obliterated part in just a minute, but I just want to read this fully so I get the context here. Congratulations to everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in-progress final missions for 12 hours, at which point, the ceasefire for 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful on the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will. I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel. God bless Iran. God bless Iran. God bless the Middle East. God bless the United States of America. And God bless the world.
So what Brett Baer has just read is the document, the exact truth post that Trump posted for regarding this ceasefire. You see, Iran starts the ceasefire after 6 hours. Allow them to go on killing each other, no problem. Just let that anger out. Let it out. Take a breath after that. And then Israel will want down their own after 12 hours. That means now you have done all the damage you already prepared to do. We didn't stop you from going forward with it. Nobody stopped you from completing the mission. Okay, after doing that, it's time to share your sword and let the world heal. So after 12 hours, and remember, the intention was not to harm anybody. It is just to get the war to stop. That was why Trump went for that, for those 3 strikes. And he said it from the beginning, that this is what is going to happen. The only thing that he gave them 2 weeks, I will live up to 2 weeks. So it's a kind of maneuver. And after 3 days, he took the action. The most important thing is that at the end of it, both sides came to the table. Before I continue with that interview, this is what Trump said regarding that. He said, Israel and Iran came to me almost simultaneously and said, peace. I knew the time was now. The world and the Middle East are the real winners. Both nations will see tremendous love, peace, and prosperity in their futures. They have so much to gain and yet so much to lose if they stray from the road of righteousness and truth. The future for Israel and Iran is unlimited. So this is the document I'm reading. Is directly posted on X. Let me see if I can give you access to it or not. I can't at the moment. Okay. The future for Israel and Iran is unlimited and filled with great promise. God bless both. God bless both. See? So that is what the situation is. He read this. He wrote that on I think it's just to show that it wasn't Iran begging for it or Israel begging for it. Just let it be a gentleman's stuff that both of them actually needed this to happen. That both countries needed there to be ceasefire. That both countries just wanted to rest from the 12 days war or whatever it's called. So let's continue with Brett Bear.
He seems confident that this is all coming together.
That's right.
And when you left the White House, were you thinking this was all gelling here?
When I left the White House, I thought that we might be able to get it across the finish line before this broadcast, and it looks like the president has been able to do that. I mean, look, he's been working the phones constantly. Frankly, before the 12-day war started, but certainly over the past 12 days, the president's been extremely clear about America's national objective here. It is to create a world where Iran cannot build a nuclear weapon. We, of course, destroyed the nuclear program that they had, and the president told the entire team, we're going to work to make sure that they don't try to rebuild that nuclear capability in the future. And it's, look, this is a great thing. For Israel, think about this. They've accomplished an important military objective. They've helped us destroy the Iranian nuclear program. They've also destroyed the conventional missile capability of Iran that threatened the country of Israel. For the Iranians, I think this is a new opportunity to actually pursue the path of peace. As I said yesterday, what the Iranians have showed through their support of terror networks, through their now failed effort to build a nuclear weapon, is that they're just not very good at war. And I think the president really hit the reset button and said, look, let's actually produce long-term peace for the region. That's always been his goal. I actually think when we look back, we will say the 12-day war was an important reset moment for the entire region.
Would you be
okay? This is, for me, it is more of a reset for the region than knowing how to do war or not. Because in every war, if there is a war on both sides, definitely people are hurt on both sides. So whether these persons are good in war or not, the most important thing is that this is a reset, both for the Middle East policies, Israeli policies, Iran policies. Because this war of there has not been any year since we entered this century that there wasn't any war in any part of the Middle East. It has to stop. It has to stop. And everyone has been accusing Iran. I don't know if they are totally responsible for everything going wrong there, but they are playing a very big part, especially through their proxies. I can't name any proxy, but I know that they have hand in some of the small group of militants, this kind of operating with reckless abandon, terrorizing the neighborhood. So if this will be a point whereby everyone will say, okay, let us rebuild our neighborhood. Let there be longer peace than there has been. And let the military be just there for protection of the internal in case of natural disaster and all that thing, and not for fighting unnecessary war. So it's a reset. That's the point I picked from this bunch of statement that J.D. Vance responded to. So we continue with the interview, and I don't wish to interfere so much from here. Let's watch.
Be surprised if Iran is sending out signals that it doesn't have a specific ceasefire plan? How would the communication have been with the Iranians to get this level of confidence to put out that detailed statement?
Well, one of the things I've learned, Brett, about the Iranians in the past, 4 or 5 months that I've been in this job is what they say publicly and privately can sometimes be very different. I think what the Iranians have shown very clearly is they don't want this war to go on for much longer. Their air defenses have been totally destroyed. Their conventional missile program has been largely destroyed. And of course, their nuclear program has been obliterated, as I said before. So I think the Iranians are at a place where they don't want to keep on fighting. You saw the president, and I don't have the truth in front of me, but he talked about the next 6 hours finalizing the attacks. I mean, I think what he's talking about is right now, for the American people watching, it's dark over there. That's typically when the Israelis and the Iranians have been shooting at each other. I think there's some recognition that that might continue for another few hours, and tomorrow really is a new day. The end of the 12-day war, the end of the Iranian nuclear program, and I really do believe the beginning of something very big for peace in the Middle East.
So you said totally obliterated. The president has said totally obliterated the Iran nuclear program.
Yeah.
Do you know for sure where all the highly enriched uranium is?
Well, Brett, I think that's actually not the question before us. The question before us is, can Iran enrich the uranium to a weapons grade level, and can they convert that fuel to a nuclear weapon? And we know, based on the success of our mission, of course, the leadership of the president, but the incredible skill of our military, that the two mission objectives are completely successful. We know that they cannot build a nuclear weapon. Now, you asked about the highly enriched uranium.
Yeah, like 900 pounds of it.
But what we know, Brett, is that uranium is something that exists in very large supply. Our goal was to bury the uranium, and I do think the uranium is buried, but our goal was to eliminate the enrichment and eliminate their ability to convert that enriched fuel into a nuclear weapon. I think this is an important point, Brett, because so many of the folks who have focused on the highly enriched uranium,
Sure, 60%.
the main focus, Brett, has been to destroy their enrichment capacity, because we don't want that 60% uranium to become 90% uranium. That's the real concern, and that's what was so successful about our mission.
So after all this, if the Iranian government survives as is, what's to stop it from rebuilding over time if they in fact moved the 60% highly enriched uranium? That's the concern.
No, the big concern, Brett, and this is again what we destroyed, is their ability to enrich uranium. If they have 60% enriched uranium, but they don't have the ability to enrich it to 90%, and further, they don't have the ability to convert that to a nuclear weapon, that is mission success. That is the obliteration of their nuclear program, which is why the president, I think, rightly is using that term. But here's the question. If Iran is desperate to build a nuclear weapon in the future, then they're going to have to deal with a very, very powerful American military again. Our hope is that the lesson that the Iranians have learned here is, look, we can fly a bunker buster bomb from Missouri to Iran completely undetected without landing once on the ground, and we can destroy whatever nuclear capacity you build up. I think that lesson is what's going to teach them not to rebuild their nuclear capacity.
Yesterday, were you speaking on the president's behalf when you said he was not interested in regime change?
Well, Brett, what I've said is the American military, that is not our mission, as regime change. Our mission was to destroy the nuclear facilities and the nuclear program of Iran, which we, of course, did. I think what the president's also said is that the Iranian people want to make a decision about regime change. That's between the Iranian people and the regime. Of course, we support freedom fighters all around the world, but our mission was to destroy the nuclear facilities, and that's what we did.
So you don't think there's any...
So, but before we continue, sorry, this is very significant, because most of the times U.S. go into these places for regime change. Even though Barack Obama didn't start any war in Egypt and Tunisia and Libya, they literally sponsored the killing of Gaddafi. In Egypt, they toppled the government, and they did it in Ukraine. They did it practically everywhere they got involved to topple the leadership. And that comes with a consequence, because first, you do not know who is coming in. Secondly, you do not know whether the people will accept whoever is coming in. Because at the point they are looking for change, the change is not defined. It's defined in terms of the mind of the US who are trying to execute that change. And when they install somebody, it might go well for the first time, which was the situation in Libya. But if it is not well managed, it will fall completely out of hand. Also, the situation in Egypt, whereby they installed them, what do you call it again? Muslim Brotherhood president, and which was later on ousted out of power. So this is not their interest according to them. It's just to eliminate the threat and let the people make their own decision on who they want to lead them. And that is, for me, is a good thing to do. You don't have the right to change the leadership of any country. So we continue from here.
Any mixed message when he goes to Truth Social and says it's not politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? Miga.
Well, I think what the president is saying very clearly, Brett, is if the Iranian people want to do something about their own leadership, that's up to the Iranian people. What the American national security interest here is very simple. It's to destroy the nuclear program. That's what we've done. And now that the 12-day war appears to be effectively over, we have an opportunity, I think, to restart a real peace process. And Brett, this is not just about two countries, Iran and Israel. All of these Gulf Arab states, they want peace. They want to invest. They want to build artificial intelligence hardware. They want to sort of come into the new economy. And that was impossible when you had Iran that was, as the president said, acting like a bully across the Middle East. We really think that if the Iranians are smart about the path forward, this could be a new dawn of an economic age of prosperity, of course, for our Gulf Arab allies, for us, for the Israelis, for everybody. But it's going to require the Iranians play it smart from here.
The president called it very weak, the Iran missile firing on the U.S. base in Qatar, Al Udeid. Was it a face-saving move? How do you get from that, firing missiles at a U.S. base, to a ceasefire, as he details in this Truth Social?
Well, as the president said, they actually gave us some warning here. And we think they gave us some warning because they didn't want to kill Americans and they didn't want to escalate. There's definitely some symbolism to this, Brett. If you look at the Iranian attack, it was 14 missiles that they telegraphed ahead of time. We dropped 14 bunker buster bombs. As the president told me earlier, our missiles, our bombs were a little bit bigger than their bombs. Our bombs actually accomplished the goal of eliminating their nuclear program. But look, we're happy, again, to restart the peace process as the president just did today.
Was the message delivered directly to the U.S. or through an emissary?
The message is always delivered through some sort of intermediary. That's been consistently true of the Iranians. Of course, we'd love to talk to them. The president's been clear about this. We'd love to have a direct conversation about how we move this thing forward because, again, we got to step back here. Why did the president do what he did over the past week? It's so that we could destroy their nuclear program. If they try to rebuild it, they're going to be on the wrong end of American power once again. We don't want that. I think they don't want that, but the ball's in their hands.
You've been reluctant or at least cautious about getting engaged previously, and that has been public. What made you sign on to this action this time?
Well, I think the president has been very clear, and I've always agreed with the president, that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. And you try to run the diplomatic process as much as you possibly can. When the president decided that wasn't going to work, he took the action that he had to take. Now we're in a new phase. That action was successful. We had a wildly successful military operation to take out their nuclear program. Now let's go on to the next phase. And I think the president, look, sometimes he's willing to use peace. Sometimes he's willing to use the military. I think it really depends on what the Iranians do from here.
And what do you think they do from here?
Well, it's an open question, Brett. I don't want to predict what the other side will do, but I think that I know what we'll do if they continue to pursue a nuclear weapon. And I hope they don't choose that path because I know the president wants to see the Middle East become peaceful and prosperous in the future. That's not going to happen if Iran pursues a nuclear weapon again.
And for the people, so we talked about the people who believe that this is going towards World War III, especially in your own party. There's a section that's very vocal. There's another section that says you should take out this regime because it's evil and horrible and has done horrible things for decades. How do you square those two sides? And can this regime stay in place and still have a peaceful, reaction relationship with the U.S.?
Well, I think the president has squared those two sides quite well. One, because he's the leader of the movement, and a lot of people trust the president, as they should. They recognize they're not seeing the same intelligence. They're not seeing the same classified documents. They trust the president to do a good job. But importantly, Brett, I think he's threaded the needle quite well here. We had a very particular objective. It was profound and difficult to accomplish.
Do you think
the elimination of the Iranian nuclear program.
Do you think they were close?
And I think the president successfully did that. You're asking, were the Iranians close to a nuclear weapon? Brett, they were very close to a nuclear weapon. And what I encourage my fellow Americans to think about here is that a week ago, the Iranians were quite close to achieving a nuclear weapon. Now, they cannot build a nuclear weapon. That is the biggest testament to the president's leadership and to the success of our mission. In 1 week, without, thank God so far, not losing a single American casualty, we have taken what was a threatening nuclear program that could have destabilized the entire world. Now that program is gone. We did it through effective presidential leadership and also some very, very competent work from our troops.
How often does it happen where you're going to do an interview and you get a Truth Social seconds before? You have some sense of it, but it's pretty detailed, where you are being asked about something the president has just put out.
In this administration, Brett, it happens quite a bit, actually, but we knew this was coming. The draft, it was interesting. I just read the draft about 2 minutes before we went on the air. It was a little bit different from what the president had showed me a couple of hours ago. But again, I knew that he was working the phones as I was on the way over here. So I knew exactly what we were going to do. And look, I love that about this presidency and this administration, is he's always working. He doesn't say, you know, the vice president's going to do an interview, so I'm going to stop doing anything. He says, you know, we're going to do the American people's business. The vice president knows what I'm trying to accomplish. And if I get it done, great, because we're going to talk about it and celebrate it, because it is a thing to celebrate. I can't emphasize this enough, Brett. We have destroyed the Iranian nuclear program. 0 Americans have died. That's an amazing, amazing thing. Americans, whether Democrats, Republicans, we should be celebrating that.
Mr. Vice President, we appreciate you coming and rolling with the punches as well.
Yeah, you got the interview.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to...
You got the interview in full. It was brought by Fox News. So I think other outlets did cover it. Now, we have had it all. The intention was to eliminate Iranians' nuclear installations, or at least to render them incapable. And according to their own assessment at the moment, that mission was achieved. Then the next thing is to bring peace to the region. And if what happened last night is to be taken seriously, if it holds, then that aspect is also on the process of being achieved. That is peace in the Middle East, because everyone knows, if you look back, most of the wars or disturbances that have been coming from that region the past 2, 3, 4, 5 years have been circulating around Iran, their proxies, Iran proxies Israel. And all of the Israel-related wars or strikes have also been going through Iran, even Syria. So let's pray, or let's hope, that this leads to the expected peace to the region. Because mostly, if there is peace in that region, eliminate the wars in that region. The only war going on at the moment is the war in Ukraine and Russia. And when this is over, I think that will be the next phase. So before I wind down this broadcast, so if you are finding any value, or if you want to see more of this, let me know on the comment side. Also criticize my approach, my way of seeing things. Let's talk about it. So before I get out of air, let's see Barack Obama doing this, because most people, most Democrats were criticizing what Trump did, as he has broken the law. He did what nobody had done. But if you check the aspect of the law they were trying to talk about, that is the power of the president to declare war. It also mentioned, I think, in the clause 12 of that particular law, or whatever it is, not so certain about it, but the paraphrasing of it gave the president up to 90 days to conduct action that will break off any national security related war. That he can engage in targeted attack up to 90 days. But if it must turn into a full-blown war, then to go forward, he must get power from the Congress. So in any case, he has not broken any law. It's not up to that amount of time. Starting from the time he gave, even if you want to include the 60 days he gave Iran, it's not up to 90 days. So let's include that 60 days as part of the 90 days. It's still within the reach of his power. He didn't exceed any law. But on the same note, you listen to Barack Obama addressing their bombing of Gaddafi and all of that military action they took, all of that bombing they took, that they never took any approval from the Congress. And all of these people kept quiet, especially those of them who were around the time just Schumer. I'm not talking about AOC. She just entered the scene recently.
Last night, on my orders, America's armed forces began strikes against ISIL targets in Syria. Today, the American people give thanks for the extraordinary service of our men and women in uniform. Today, I authorize the armed forces of the United States to begin a limited military action in Libya. That action has now begun. Make no mistake, this is a difficult mission, and it will remain difficult for some time. It's going to take time to dislodge these terrorists, especially from urban areas. If the United States has Al-Qaeda, Laden, top-level lieutenants in our sights, and Pakistan is unable or unwilling to act, then we should take them out.
So you see the question there, the person who put this out, is it unconstitutional? The answer is no, it is not. So for those like Jasmine Crotchet and others who are making noise about breaking the law and impeachment, no, Trump didn't break any law. For me, the only place I am this is that I don't want countries having the power to strike any country. Apart from that, eliminating the nuclear installation is action well justified. And I want the nuclear installation of every country to be removed. That weapon is not supposed to be among, it is so destructive. So on that note, I want to say thank you so much for being with me at this time. And enjoy a beautiful day. Keep loving. Bye.